The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched out like a massive bowl carved from black stone. Thousands of seats rose in curved rows, each one designed for a different alien species. Some seats held water for the aquatic depths. Others glowed with heat for the rock-eating molten ones. A few floated in the air, suspended by gravity fields for the gas cloud beings called whispers. Today, every seat was filled. Emergency sessions like this one happened maybe once every 100 years. The last time was when the plague ships had threatened to wipe out half the galaxy. Before that, it was the Great War between the machine minds and the organic worlds. Ambassador Zixathera stepped onto the speaking platform. Her forearms moved with sharp, angry gestures. Her scales, normally a calm blue, had turned bright red with emotion. The Hegemony Coalition had sent their best speaker, and everyone could see she was furious about something. Counselor Prime Veltaran watched from his high seat at the center of the chamber. He was old, even by the standards of his long-lived people. His skin looked like ancient tree bark, wrinkled and brown. His large dark eyes had seen 1,000 years of galactic politics. He had watched empires rise and fall. He had seen species discover space travel and join the great community of worlds. He had also seen wars that killed billions. But right now, Veltaran felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. Zixathera raised her voice so it echoed through the chamber. Honored counselors, we come before you today to announce a necessary action. The Hegemony Coalition has voted. We will take military action against the humans. The chamber fell silent. It was the kind of silence that came when something impossible had just been said. Like announcing that gravity would stop working tomorrow, or that the stars would start singing songs. Counselor Thexera, whose people looked like living crystals, made a sound like breaking glass. It was how her species expressed shock. You cannot be serious, she said, her voice ringing like a bell. We are completely serious, Zixathera replied. The humans have shown disrespect for proper galactic order. They refuse to give up the 3 systems we require for our expansion. They think they can ignore the hegemony's reasonable demands because they hide behind council protection. Veltaran's old hands gripped the arms of his chair. Around the chamber, other counselors began to speak at once. Their voices mixed together in a chaos of different languages and sounds. The translator systems worked overtime to turn alien words into something everyone could understand. This is madness, rumbled Counselor Grax, whose mountain-sized body filled an entire section of the chamber. You clearly do not understand what you are proposing. We understand perfectly, Zixathera shot back. Humans are a young species. They have been spacefaring for barely 200 years. They have been council members for only 50 years. They control a dozen small systems on the edge of nowhere. Their military is tiny. Their technology is basic. They spend most of their time trading goods and building farms. The chamber erupted again. This time the sounds were different. Some counselors made noises that meant foolish in their languages. Others made sounds that meant doomed or crazy or about to die horribly. Veltaran stood up slowly. When he did, the entire chamber went quiet. Even after 1,000 years, his voice carried weight. Ambassador Zixathera, he said carefully, has the Hegemony Coalition studied human history? Of course we have, she replied with a dismissive wave of one arm. They had some minor conflicts on their homeworld before they developed space travel. Nothing unusual. Most species fight among themselves before they grow up enough to join galactic civilization. And you believe this makes them weak? We believe this makes them predictable, Zixathera said. They are a peaceful trading people now. They have grown soft living under council protection. They will negotiate rather than fight. And if they do fight, their small fleet will be easily defeated. Veltaran looked around the chamber. He saw the same expression on thousands of alien faces, the look of beings watching someone walk toward a cliff while refusing to listen to warnings about the drop ahead. Ambassador, Veltaran said slowly, I must ask this question formally for the record. Has anyone in the Hegemony Coalition read the full human files? The complete historical analysis prepared by the Council's research department? Zixathera paused. It was a small pause, but Veltaren had been in politics long enough to recognize uncertainty. "We reviewed the basic information package," she said. "Trade data, population numbers, fleet strength, system defenses, everything necessary for a military assessment, but not the historical analysis." We saw no need for ancient history lessons about a primitive world. The chamber was so quiet now that Veltaren could hear the soft humming of the life support systems. He could hear the gentle bubbling from the water-filled seats of the aquatic members. He could hear his own heart beating faster than it had in decades. "Then you have made a terrible mistake," he said softly. Zixthera's scales turned a deeper red. "Are you threatening the Hegemony Coalition, Counselor Prime?" "I am not threatening anyone," Veltaren replied. "I am trying to save your people from themselves." "The decision is made," Zixthera declared. "Our fleets are already moving toward human space. We expect their surrender within days. We came here only to inform the Council, as proper diplomatic protocol requires." She turned and walked toward the chamber exit. Her 3 aide followers clicked along behind her on their insect-like legs. As soon as the Hegemony delegation left, the chamber exploded into discussion. Counselors called out to each other across the vast space. Some demanded immediate action, others suggested diplomatic solutions. A few simply sat in stunned silence. Veltaren remained standing. Gradually, the other counselors noticed and began to quiet down. When the chamber was silent again, he spoke. "We must vote immediately on emergency intervention," he said. "All in favor of immediate military assistance to the human systems?" Thousands of arms, tentacles, pseudopods, and other appendages rose into the air. The vote was unanimous. It was the fastest unanimous vote in Council history. "Motion carried," Veltaren announced. "However, I fear we may already be too late." As the counselors began to file out of the chamber, Veltaren remained behind. He activated his personal communication device and sent a priority message to the Council's military command. The message was short. "Prepare for massive refugee operations. Multiple species. Hegemony Coalition territory." Then he sent another message, this one to the human ambassador. It was even shorter. "We are sorry. We tried to prevent this." Veltaren had been alive for 1,000 years. He had seen the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations. He had watched species discover fire, develop writing, build cities, reach for the stars, and join the great community of galactic civilization. He had also seen what happened when someone was foolish enough to attack the apex predators of their respective worlds. The Hegemony Coalition was about to learn why the Council had worked so hard to keep humanity happy, well-fed and peacefully occupied with trade routes and farming colonies. They were about to discover why the complete human historical files were classified at the highest levels and why reading them required special psychological preparation. They were about to meet the species that had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war before they ever left their home planet. Veltaren closed his eyes and tried not to imagine what would happen next. Admiral Krathzon stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance. Through the massive view screen, he could see the human star system spread out before his fleet. 1,200 ships from 6 different hegemony species floated in perfect formation behind him. It was the largest military force assembled in this part of the galaxy in over 300 years. The human system looked exactly as the intelligence reports had described. One small star, yellow like many others. 7 planets, only 2 of them inhabited. A few space stations orbiting the inner worlds, some mining operations on the outer planets. A handful of defensive platforms that looked like they had been built by a species just learning to work with military technology. "Analysis report," Krathzon commanded. His intelligence officer, a tall gray being with too many joints in his arms, consulted his datapad. "As expected, Admiral. Human fleet strength in this system appears to be 147 ships. Most appear to be converted civilian vessels. We detect some military modifications, but nothing that should trouble our forces." Krathzon nodded. His own people had been conquering star systems for over 1,000 years. His fleet contained ships that could crack planets open like eggs. His weapons could turn moons into dust. His shields could stop anything the humans might throw at them. Open a communication channel to the human fleet, he ordered. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to a human female. She had the dark skin and calm eyes that seemed common among her species. Her uniform was simple blue fabric with small metal decorations. She looked completely unremarkable. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation Defense Force," she said. "You are in violation of Terran space. State your intentions." Krathzon almost laughed. The human looked so serious, as if her tiny fleet could actually threaten his armada. "I am Admiral Krathzon of the Hegemony Coalition. You will surrender your system immediately. Your resistance is meaningless." "I see," Admiral Chen said calmly. "And if we refuse? Then we will take your system by force. Your ships will be destroyed. Your colonies will be occupied. Your people will become subjects of the hegemony." Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. She seemed to be thinking about something. Finally, she spoke again. "Admiral Krathzon, I want to be very clear about this. You are declaring war on the Terran Federation?" "Your federation is nothing," Krathzon replied. "A collection of farm worlds and trading posts. You have no real military. You have no experience with serious warfare. You will surrender or you will be crushed." "I see," Admiral Chen said again. "In that case, I have a message for you from the Terran Federation government." Krathzon waited. He expected pleading or perhaps an offer to negotiate. Maybe the humans would try to buy him off with trade agreements. Instead, Admiral Chen's expression changed. The calm look disappeared. What replaced it made Krathzon suddenly uncomfortable, though he could not say why. "Admiral Krathzon," she said, her voice still perfectly level, "you have committed an act of war against the Terran Federation. This is your only warning. Withdraw your forces immediately or face the consequences." Krathzon did laugh this time. "Consequences? From you? Human, look at your view screen. Count my ships. Look at the size of my weapons. You are outnumbered 8-1. "I have looked," Admiral Chen replied. "I have counted. And I have decided that your forces pose a significant threat to Terran civilians. Therefore, I am authorizing the use of maximum force in response." The communication channel closed. Krathzon stared at the blank screen for a moment. Then he turned to his tactical officer. "The humans are either very brave or very stupid," he said. "Prepare for battle. All ships, attack formation. Target their largest vessels first." "Sir," his sensor operator called out, "I'm detecting some unusual readings from the human ships." "What kind of unusual?" "Their energy signatures are changing. Power levels are increasing across their entire fleet. And sir, those civilian ships we identified, their hulls are reconfiguring." Krathzon moved to the sensor station. On the display, he watched the human fleet transform before his eyes. Ships that had looked like simple cargo haulers were unfolding additional hull sections. Weapon ports were opening along their sides. Shield generators that had been hidden inside their structures were powering up. "How is this possible?" Krathzon demanded. "Sir, it appears their ships were designed to look like civilian vessels. They're actually military ships disguised as traders and cargo haulers. That's against galactic convention," Krathzon said weakly. His communications officer looked up from his station. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "All ships, all frequencies, put it through," Admiral Chen's voice filled the bridge. But this time she was not speaking just to Krathzon. She was speaking to every ship in both fleets. "Attention all vessels," she said. "This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Federation. To the hegemony forces, you have entered our space with hostile intent. You have threatened our civilians. You have declared war on our people. We tried to give you a chance to leave peacefully. You refused." She paused. When she continued, her voice carried something that made Krathzon's blood run cold. "To all Terran ships, rules of engagement are now in effect. Priority Alpha. No quarter asked, none given. Show them what happens when someone threatens Earth's children." The human fleet moved. Krathzon had been in dozens of space battles. He thought he understood how fleet combat worked. Ships moved slowly, carefully. They positioned themselves for maximum advantage. They traded long-range fire while maneuvering for better positions. The humans did none of these things. Their ships accelerated like fighters, not capital vessels. They moved in perfect coordination, as if their entire fleet was controlled by a single mind. Their formation flowed like liquid, adjusting instantly to counter every move Krathzon's ships made. And their weapons, shields down to 60%, his defense officer shouted. "How are they penetrating our armor so easily?" Sir, their weapons are using some kind of adaptive technology. Each shot is calibrated specifically for our shield frequencies. Krathzon watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet began to crumble. Human ships danced between his formations, striking with surgical precision. They targeted command centers, shield generators, weapon systems. They did not just attack randomly. They systematically dismantled his ships piece by piece. Retreat, he ordered. All ships fall back. But there was no falling back. The humans had anticipated his retreat routes. They had positioned their ships to cut off escape paths he had not even known he was going to use. Sir, his communications officer said in a shaking voice, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 of our ships. Surrender? Already? Sir, the humans aren't destroying ships unnecessarily. When they disable a vessel, they demand surrender. If the crew complies, they provide medical assistance and safe passage to lifeboats. Krathzon looked at his tactical display. In the span of 20 minutes, his fleet had been reduced from 1,200 ships to less than 800. The humans had lost exactly 3 vessels. This is impossible, he whispered. How can a primitive species fight like this? His intelligence officer, the one who had assured him of easy victory, was staring at his instruments in shock. Sir, he said slowly, I'm reading their ship configurations more clearly now. These aren't primitive ships. The technology, it's more advanced than ours. Much more advanced, but the reports were wrong, sir. Or maybe the humans wanted us to think they were primitive. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system again. Admiral Krathzon, this is your final opportunity to surrender. Your fleet is defeated. Your escape routes are cut off. Order your remaining ships to stand down, and we will allow you to leave our space with your surviving crew. Krathzon looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at him with expressions of defeat and fear. His mighty flagship was badly damaged. His fleet was scattered and broken. He had come here expecting to conquer a weak farming people. Instead, he had discovered that the humans had been pretending to be weak. They had been waiting for someone to make the mistake he had just made. Signal the fleet, he said quietly. All ships surrender. As his weapons powered down and his ships prepared to be escorted out of human space, Krathzon wondered what other surprises the humans might have hidden throughout their territory. He was about to find out. High Commander Vashtok received the first reports from Admiral Krathzon's fleet, while reviewing invasion plans in his command center. The massive underground facility stretched for kilometers beneath the surface of the hegemony capital world. Hundreds of officers from 6 different species worked at control stations, coordinating the largest military operation in hegemony history. The news from the human border should have been routine. A quick victory report, followed by demands for surrender from the remaining human systems. Instead, Vashtok found himself reading words that made no sense. Fleet engagement unsuccessful. Heavy casualties. Request immediate reinforcement. Vashtok read the message 3 times before calling his intelligence chief. Explain this report, he demanded. Intelligence Chief Mordak scuttled over on his 8 spider-like legs. His kind were known throughout the galaxy for their careful, analytical minds. They rarely made mistakes about military assessments. High Commander, there appears to be some error in the transmission, Mordak said, his voice clicking and buzzing. Admiral Krathzon reports that his fleet was defeated by the human forces. Defeated? Impossible. He had 1,200 ships. The humans have barely 200 in their entire fleet. That was our assessment, yes. But High Commander, Mordak paused, consulting his datapad. We are now receiving reports from survivors. The details are disturbing. For the next hour, Vashtok listened to testimony from ship captains who had escaped the battle. Their stories all contained the same impossible elements. Human ships that moved faster than should be possible. Weapons that adapted to hegemony defenses in real time. Tactics that demonstrated detailed knowledge of hegemony fleet procedures. This makes no sense, Vashtok said finally. How could a primitive species fight with such effectiveness? High Commander, Mordak said carefully. I believe we may have misunderstood the nature of human civilization. Before Vashtok could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the command center. Red lights flashed across dozens of control stations. Officers shouted reports in multiple languages. High Commander, called his communications officer, a floating gas being whose voice came through translation devices. We have multiple emergency signals from Sector 7. What kind of emergencies? Human fleets, sir. They're attacking our positions in the Kelton system, the Morvik colonies, and the Hassani trade stations. All attacks began simultaneously. Vashtok felt something cold settle in his stomach. How many human ships? At least 3 full fleets, sir. Each fleet appears to be larger than our estimates of their total military capacity. That's impossible. More alarms sounded. More reports flooded in. Human forces were striking across a front that stretched across 12 star systems. They were not simply defending their territory. They were attacking deep into hegemony space. "Sir," called another officer, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council." Vashtok nodded grimly. The Council would undoubtedly demand an immediate end to hostilities. They would threaten sanctions and diplomatic consequences, standard political maneuvering. Instead, Councillor Prime Veltaran's ancient face appeared on the main screen. His expression was grave. "High Commander Vashtok," Veltaran said slowly, "I am contacting you to offer the Hegemony Coalition an opportunity to surrender." Vashtok blinked. "Surrender?" "Counselor, I believe you misunderstand the situation. We have attacked the humans, not the other way around." "No, High Commander. I understand the situation perfectly. You have awakened something that should have been left sleeping. Your forces are currently being systematically destroyed across multiple sectors. The human response is not defensive. It is retaliatory. Counselor, with respect, the humans are a minor species. Our military strength far exceeds theirs." Veltaran's expression grew sad. "High Commander, has anyone in your government read the complete human historical files? We reviewed the basic data package, but not the classified sections, not the detailed analysis of human warfare capabilities. There was no need. They are a peaceful trading people. They are the most efficient killers this galaxy has ever seen," Veltaran said quietly. "They are a species that spent 10,000 years perfecting warfare before they ever left their home planet. They unified their entire world through conquest. They have fought wars that make our conflicts look like children's games." Vashtok felt the cold sensation in his stomach grow worse. That's not possible. Our intelligence reports. Your intelligence reports showed you what the humans wanted you to see. They have been carefully managing their public image since joining the Council. They appear peaceful because they choose to appear peaceful. They appear weak because strength would make other species nervous. The tactical display in front of Vashtok updated with new information. Human fleets were moving through hegemony space like a disease, systematically destroying military installations and capturing strategic positions. Their advance was coordinated, efficient, and unstoppable. "How many ships do they actually have?" Vashtok asked weakly. "We estimate approximately 10,000 combat vessels," Veltaran replied. "Most of them disguised as civilian ships or hidden in asteroid fields and nebulae throughout their territory. They have been preparing for this possibility since they joined the galactic community." 10,000, but that would make them one of the largest military powers in the galaxy. "High Commander, they are the largest military power in the galaxy. We simply allowed them to hide that fact because it served everyone's interests. Until now." Vashtok looked around his command center. His officers were staring at the incoming reports with expressions of growing horror. The hegemony's mighty military machine was being dismantled piece by an enemy they had dismissed as harmless farmers. "What do they want?" he asked. "They want the hegemony coalition to cease existing," Veltaran said simply. "They view your government as a threat to galactic stability. They intend to dismantle your political structure and free the species you have been oppressing. And if we resist, then they will exterminate every military asset you possess and occupy your territory until new governments can be established." "High Commander, I have seen the human battle plans. They are thorough, they are efficient, and they leave no room for failure." The main tactical display showed the current state of the war. In less than 6 hours, human forces had captured or destroyed over 30% of hegemony military assets. Their advance showed no signs of slowing. "This is a nightmare," Vashtok whispered. "No," Veltaran corrected. "This is what happens when someone is foolish enough to attack humanity. The nightmare is just beginning." More reports came in. The Zephyrian Republic, one of the hegemony's founding members, had just announced their withdrawal from the coalition. The Mandorian Empire was requesting immediate peace negotiations with human forces. 3 minor species had already surrendered their entire fleets. "High Commander," Intelligence Chief Mordak said quietly, I have completed analysis of the human tactical patterns. They are not simply attacking randomly. They are following a specific strategy designed to fragment our alliance and eliminate our capacity for resistance. What kind of strategy? They are targeting command structures, supply lines, and communication networks. They are also making contact with oppressed populations within our territory, offering them protection in exchange for cooperation. It is exactly what our own strategic manuals recommend for dismantling a large political entity. Vashtok closed his eyes. They studied us. They know how we think, how we fight, how we organize ourselves. Yes, High Commander. And they have designed their response specifically to counter our strengths and exploit our weaknesses. Another alarm sounded. This time it was the proximity alert for the capital system itself. Sir, called the sensor operator, human ships have just entered our outer defensive perimeter. Vashtok opened his eyes and looked at the display. A massive human fleet hung at the edge of his home system like a storm front. Hundreds of ships all bearing the simple blue flag of the Terran Federation. They're not attacking, the sensor operator continued. They appear to be waiting for something. Vashtok's communication system activated. Admiral Sarah Chen's face appeared on his screen. She looked exactly as calm and unremarkable as she had when Admiral Krathzon first met her. High Commander Vashtok, she said politely, I am here to discuss the terms of your surrender. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the conference room aboard her flagship, looking out at the hegemony capital world through the massive viewport. The planet below was beautiful in its way, with swirling purple clouds and vast silver cities that sparkled in the light of twin suns. It was hard to believe that this peaceful-looking world had been the center of an empire that oppressed dozens of species across hundreds of star systems. High Commander, Vashtok sat across from her at the conference table, flanked by representatives from the 6 hegemony species. They all looked defeated, but Chen could see anger and confusion in their eyes. They still did not fully understand what had happened to them. Let me be clear about the situation, Chen said calmly. The Hegemony Coalition no longer exists as a political entity. Your military forces have been neutralized. Your member species are in the process of negotiating separate peace agreements with the Terran Federation. Vashtok's mandibles clicked together in frustration. This is impossible. 6 days ago, we were the dominant power in this sector. How can everything have changed so quickly? Chen activated a holographic display above the table. It showed the current state of what had once been hegemony space. Green areas marked regions under human control. Blue areas showed species that had joined the new Terran protection zone. Red areas indicated remaining pockets of hegemony resistance. The map was mostly green and blue. You made several critical errors, Chen explained. First, you assumed that our peaceful behavior meant we were weak. Second, you believed that our small visible fleet represented our total military capacity. Third, you thought that because we were new to galactic politics, we did not understand how galactic warfare worked. She gestured to the hologram. The truth is that humanity has been studying galactic military doctrine since we first made contact with alien species. We have analyzed every major conflict in recorded galactic history. We have wargamed scenarios against every known military power. We have been preparing for this possibility for 50 years. But why? Demanded Intelligence Chief Mordak. Why hide your true strength? Why pretend to be weak farmers and traders? Chen smiled slightly. Because peace is more profitable than war, and we prefer to avoid conflict when possible. But we also know that the galaxy contains species like yours, aggressive empires that view peaceful neighbors as easy targets. So we prepared. She touched a control, and the hologram changed to show the true scope of human military infrastructure, hidden shipyards in asteroid fields, defensive installations disguised as mining operations, training facilities built inside hollow moons, supply depots scattered throughout seemingly empty space. Every human colony world is a fortress, Chen continued. Every civilian ship can be converted to military use within hours. Every human citizen has received basic military training. We are not just a peaceful trading confederation. We are a civilization organized for total war. Vashtok stared at the display. You've militarized your entire society. No, Chen corrected. We've organized our society so that it can shift to total militarization when necessary. There's a difference. Our people live peaceful, productive lives. They raise families, create art, build businesses, explore new worlds. But when someone threatens that peaceful life, we respond with overwhelming force. Another hologram appeared, showing the current location of human fleets throughout the galaxy. There were far more than Vashtok had imagined. Ships were positioned near every major trade route, every important system, every potential threat. "How long have you been planning this?" Vashtok asked. "We began planning the moment we learned that species like yours existed," Chen replied. "Humanity spent most of our pre-space history fighting wars. We learned to be very good at it. When we discovered that the galaxy contained aggressive empires that might someday threaten us, we decided to be ready." She touched another control. This time the hologram showed Earth itself, surrounded by massive orbital installations and defense platforms. "Our homeworld has not seen war for 200 years, Chen said. "We intend to keep it that way. That means eliminating threats before they can reach our core systems." "You could have simply warned us," Vashtok protested. "Told us about your true military strength. We never would have attacked if we had known. But then you would have found other targets," Chen pointed out. "Weaker species. Species that could not defend themselves. The problem was not that you threatened us specifically. The problem was that you threatened anyone." The hologram changed again, showing footage from the liberation of hegemony-occupied worlds. Human marines working alongside freed alien populations to establish new governments. Medical ships providing aid to refugees. Transport vessels evacuating civilians from war zones. "This is what we do," Chen said. "We protect people who cannot protect themselves. We eliminate governments that prey on the weak. We establish stability in regions that have known only oppression." Vashtok was quiet for a long moment, studying the images. Finally he spoke. "You're conquering us in the name of peace. We're dismantling your empire because it was a threat to galactic stability," Chen corrected. "Your government controlled member species through fear and violence. You demanded tribute from weaker worlds. You enslaved populations that could not resist you. That makes you our enemy. And what happens to us now?" "To our people?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Individual hegemony citizens who had no role in government oppression will be allowed to return to their home worlds. Minor officials who cooperated with our forces will be permitted to participate in new local governments. Military officers who surrendered without unnecessary bloodshed will be released after a brief detention period. And the leadership will face trial for war crimes before a joint tribunal of liberated species." Vashtok's mandibles clicked again, but this time the sound was resigned rather than angry. "You have thought of everything. We have been planning this for 50 years, Chen reminded him. "We analyzed your government structure, your military doctrine, your economic systems, your social organization. We knew exactly how to dismantle your empire with minimum civilian casualties and maximum effectiveness." She stood up and moved to the viewport, looking down at the planet below. "High Commander, your people are not evil. Your military fought bravely, even when facing impossible odds. Your species have valuable contributions to make to galactic civilization, but your government was a cancer that needed to be removed. And you appointed yourselves to be the surgeons." "The Galactic Council appointed us," Chen corrected. "They have been waiting for someone to deal with the hegemony problem for centuries. They simply lacked the military strength to do it themselves." Vashtok looked startled. "The Council was part of this?" "The Council has known about human military capabilities since we first applied for membership. They welcomed us precisely because we could handle threats like yours. Think of us as the galaxy's immune system." Chen returned to the table and sat down. "The formal surrender documents are ready for your signature. Once you sign them, this war will be over. Your surviving military personnel will be repatriated to their home worlds. Occupied populations will be granted independence or protection status depending on their choice. The galaxy will be a more peaceful place." Vashtok picked up the documents and read through them slowly. They were thorough, fair, and completely non-negotiable. "What guarantee do we have that you will honor these terms?" he asked. "You have the guarantee that we could have simply exterminated your entire civilization and chose not to," Chen replied bluntly. "High Commander, we are capable of cracking planets. We have weapons that can sterilize star systems. We chose to capture your worlds instead of destroying them because we believe in giving people the chance to build better lives." She gestured toward the viewport again. "Your capital world is unharmed. Your cities are intact. Your people are alive. That was our choice. If we had wanted conquest for its own sake, this conversation would not be happening." Vashtok signed the documents. As he did, Chen felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction because a major threat to galactic peace had been eliminated. Sadness because it had been necessary to use force to achieve that goal. "High Commander," she said as he finished signing, "I want you to understand something. Humanity does not enjoy war. We are good at it because we had to be, but we prefer peace, prosperity, and cooperation. Your people will have the chance to be part of that peaceful future." Vashatok looked up at her. "And if other species make the same mistake we did? If someone else decides to attack humanity?" Chen's expression grew cold. "Then they will receive the same education you just did." Outside the viewport, human ships were already beginning the work of transforming a region of oppression into a zone of peace and prosperity. It was work that humanity had become very good at over the past 50 years, and it was work they were prepared to do again, whenever necessary. 6 months after the war's end, Admiral Sarah Chen walked through the corridors of the Galactic Council Station. The massive space station orbited a neutral world at the center of the galaxy, serving as the meeting place for over 300 different species. Today was special. Today the Council would formally recognize the new political reality that had emerged from the ashes of the Hegemony Coalition. Chen wore her dress uniform, dark blue with silver decorations that caught the light from the station's artificial suns. She carried herself with the same calm confidence she had shown during the war. But now there was something different in how other beings looked at her. Where once there had been polite disinterest, now there was respect, fear, and careful attention. The corridor was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all heading toward the main council chamber. Chen noticed how conversations stopped when she passed, how groups of aliens stepped aside to let her through, how even the massive mountain-sized representatives of ancient species nodded respectfully as she walked by. She entered the council chamber and took her place at the speaker's platform. The great bowl-shaped room rose around her, filled with thousands of seats representing every known intelligent species in the galaxy. Every seat was occupied. Sessions like this one happened maybe once every 1,000 years. Counselor Prime Velteran called the session to order. His ancient voice carried clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "We gather today to formally recognize the new order that has emerged from recent events," he announced. "Admiral Chen, you may present the status report from the former hegemony territories." Chen activated the holographic display above the platform. The image showed a vast region of space that had once been marked in the aggressive red of the hegemony coalition. Now it was divided into multiple colors representing different political entities. "Honored counselors," Chen began, "I am pleased to report that the transition in the former hegemony territories has been completed successfully. 14 species have been granted full independence and are establishing democratic governments. 8 species have chosen to join the Terran Protection Zone, maintaining local autonomy while receiving security guarantees from the Federation. 3 species have requested direct incorporation into the Terran Federation as member worlds." She gestured to the display, highlighting different regions. Refugee resettlement is 96% complete. War crimes tribunals have concluded their work, with most former officials receiving community service sentences rather than imprisonment. Economic reconstruction is ahead of schedule, with former hegemony worlds showing increased productivity and living standards. The chamber was completely silent. Chen could hear the soft humming of life support systems, the gentle bubbling from aquatic species' water-filled seats, and the whispered translations being provided to delegates who needed help understanding her words. "Questions?" she asked. Counselor Thexera, the crystalline being who had expressed shock at the original hegemony declaration, spoke first. "Admiral Chen, these results seem unusually positive. Most galactic conflicts result in decades of instability and resentment. How have you achieved such rapid stabilization?" Chen smiled slightly. "We planned for the peace as carefully as we planned for the war. Humanitarian teams were deployed alongside military forces. Economic advisors worked with local populations to rebuild infrastructure. Cultural specialists ensured that new governments respected local traditions and values." She changed the holographic display to show images from throughout the former hegemony territories. Alien children playing in rebuilt cities, mixed species working together on construction projects, former enemies cooperating to establish trade agreements. "Counselor, humans learned long ago that winning a war is meaningless if you lose the peace. We fought not to conquer but to liberate. We have tried to ensure that liberated populations see us as protectors rather than occupiers." Another counselor spoke up. This one a gas cloud being whose voice came through translation devices. Admiral, there are concerns about the scope of human military power. Recent intelligence estimates suggest your true fleet strength is far beyond anything previously known. Some species worry about future intentions. The chamber fell silent again. This was the question everyone wanted to ask, but few dared to voice directly. Chen looked around the vast chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from hundreds of worlds. When she spoke, her voice was clear and firm. The Terran Federation has no interest in conquest for its own sake. We have no desire to rule over other species or impose our culture on alien worlds. What we do have is a commitment to protecting peaceful civilizations from aggressive empires. She paused, letting her words sink in. However, I want to be absolutely clear about one thing. The galaxy now has a stable balance of power. Peaceful species can develop their civilizations without fear of conquest. Democratic governments can flourish without worrying about invasion. Trade can flow freely without being disrupted by pirates or raiders. The holographic display changed again, showing the entire galaxy. Blue zones marked areas under Terran protection. Green zones showed independent species with security agreements. Yellow zones indicated neutral territories. There were very few red zones left. This balance will be maintained, Chen continued. Any species or government that threatens galactic peace will face the same response that the hegemony received. This is not a threat. It is a promise. Counselor Prime Veltaran stood up slowly. Even after all these centuries, his words carried enormous weight. Admiral Chen, he said, the Council recognizes the Terran Federation as the galaxy's primary peacekeeping force. We formally request that humanity accept responsibility for maintaining galactic stability. Chen had been expecting this moment for months. The Council was officially asking humanity to become the galaxy's police force. It was a role that came with enormous responsibility and significant risks. The Terran Federation accepts this responsibility, she replied. However, we will not act as galactic dictators. Major decisions regarding peace and security will continue to be made by the full Council. We will serve as the enforcement arm of Council decisions, not as unilateral actors. Agreed, Veltaran said immediately. The Council will establish a joint oversight committee to coordinate peacekeeping operations. Around the chamber, representatives began to speak among themselves. Some looked relieved, others appeared worried. A few seemed to be calculating how this new arrangement might benefit their own worlds. Chen understood their concerns. Humanity had gone from being newcomers to being the dominant military power in the galaxy in the span of just 50 years. That kind of rapid change made everyone nervous. I want to address the concerns I see in this chamber, she said, raising her voice to be heard over the discussions. Yes, humanity has significant military capabilities. Yes, we have demonstrated our willingness to use force when necessary, but I want you to consider the alternative. The chamber grew quiet again. Without a strong peacekeeping force, the galaxy returns to the old pattern. Aggressive species prey on peaceful ones. Empires rise and fall through conquest and oppression. Billions of innocent beings suffer while the strong exploit the weak. She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed historical conflicts throughout galactic history. Wars that had killed trillions. Empires that had enslaved entire species. Periods of chaos that had lasted for millennia. Humanity offers a different path. We offer stability enforced by overwhelming strength. We offer protection for those who cannot protect themselves. We offer a galaxy where peaceful development is possible because aggressive expansion is impossible. Chen looked directly at Veltaran. Counselor, your people have been working for galactic peace for thousands of years. You have seen the rise and fall of countless empires. You know that only strength can guarantee peace. Veltaran nodded slowly. Admiral, I have indeed seen the cycles of war and peace throughout galactic history. I have watched species destroy themselves through endless conflict. I have seen the suffering that results when the strong prey upon the weak. He paused, his ancient eyes meeting hers. I have also seen what happens when a truly powerful species chooses to use its strength to protect others rather than to dominate them. It is rare, Admiral, very rare, but when it happens, it creates periods of unprecedented peace and prosperity. And you believe humanity can be that kind of species? I believe humanity already is that kind of species, Veltaran replied. The question is whether you can remain that way as your power grows. Chen considered his words carefully. It was a valid concern. History was full of species that had started as liberators and ended as conquerors. Counselor, Humanity has spent 2 centuries learning to live with our own destructive capabilities. We know what we are capable of. We know the temptations that come with power. We have built our government and our culture specifically to resist those temptations. She activated a final holographic display, this one showing Earth itself. The blue world hung in space, surrounded by defensive installations but free from the scars of war. Our home world has known peace for 200 years, she said. We intend to extend that peace to the entire galaxy, not through conquest but through protection.